Hi everybody, today we're going to be talking about lesson 25, fractions and mixed numbers on a number line. So we've done a lot of work with number lines using whole numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and even negative numbers, -1, -2, -3. Well, today we're going to start looking at a number line, but we're going to start looking at it with fractions. So when we look at a fraction or at a number line, there are 3 steps that we need to follow. The first step is to find the distance from 0 to the whole number just before the fraction. Okay, that's our first step. Write it down. The second step is to count the spaces between 0 and 1. That number becomes the denominator of your fraction. Ooh, can't spell, guys. Sorry. Denominator. There we go. Okay, so count the spaces between 0 and 1, or between any 2 whole numbers that are next to each other, 5 and 6, 12 and 13, and that number becomes your denominator. Okay, the third step then is to count the spaces from the lower whole number to the point, or to the dot on the line. This becomes your numerator. Okay, so now let's talk about what this actually looks like in process. So here we have 2 number lines, 2 separate ones, marked with 2 points. We need to tell me what each point means, or is called. So let's look at this first one. Here's 0 and here's 1. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces from 0 to 1. So the denominator of my fraction is going to be 4. I've split my whole number, 0 to 1, into fourths. Okay, now we see that we start at 0, so I don't have a whole number, or my whole number would be 0. So for this one, I'm just looking at a fraction. Now to follow step 2, I'm going to count from 0 to the point A, and that number becomes my numerator. So we have 1. So my fraction is 1/4. Point A equals 1/4. Okay, so let's look at B. Step 1 is to count from 0 to the lowest whole number before your point. So here's my point, it's before 2. So I have 1 whole number. So 1 is my whole number. I already know that I have 4 spaces from 0 to 1. That does not change just because I go to 2. Whatever fraction spacing we use between 2 whole numbers, we use on the same number line. So whether it's thirds, fifths, 42nds, it's all going to be the same on the same number line. So I know my denominator will be a 4. But now I need to count to find my numerator. So this time I start at 1 because that's my lowest whole number before my dot. And I count 1, 2, 3 spaces to the B. So 3 is my numerator. So point B is at 1 and 3/4. All right, let's go and look at the other number line at point C. So notice that this number line starts at 5. So I don't need to count my whole numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 because they don't give that to me on the number line. We're going to assume that that's there because of this arrow. But I'm going to start at 5, and I see that C is before I get to 6. So my whole number is 5. But now I need to count my denominator. So I start at 5, and I count the spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there are 5 spaces between the 5 and the 6. So these are split into fifths. Now I need to see how many spaces there are until I get to C for my numerator. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So point C is at 5 and 4 fifths. And finally, D. To find my whole number, I have to find the lowest whole number before D, which would be 6. I already know that 5 is my denominator because whatever one whole number is broken into, the whole number line will have the same denominator. So I know it'll be fifths, and from 6 to point D is 1 space. So 6 and 1/5 is point D. Okay, so make sure that you follow those steps when you're working on your lesson practice tonight. All right, let's look at example 2. Okay, Tevin walked two-thirds of a mile. Denise walked 3/4 of a mile. Who walked further? So here I have 2 number lines. My first is divided into thirds, 1, 2, 3. And my point is at the 2/3. And here's my other number line, 3/4. 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces from 0 to 1. And my point is at 3. So using these 2 number lines, which were drawn directly on top of each other, with 0 and 1 the same space apart, let's compare the fractions. Is 2/3 greater than, less than, or equal to 3/4? Well, since 3/4 is closer to 1 than 2/3 is, 3/4 is going to be greater than 2/3. When you do your lesson practice tonight, you are going to be comparing fractions. The closer to the right, the further to the right, or the closer to the whole number, the larger the fraction is. If you need to, you can always use your fraction pieces. Okay, that's it. I will see you in the morning.